I know what you're thinking. Why would a mafia boss ever walk into a tiny bakery? Just to pay for a kid's birthday cake? But what if I told you that cake was the beginning of everything? Love, danger, secrets. A life I never asked for, and could never walk away from. Because I wasn't supposed to be seen. Not by him. I was just a single mom behind on rent, barely holding it together. But that night, he looked at me like I was the only thing in the world that mattered. And I should have run. God, I should have walked out of that bakery and never looked back. But he didn't just buy that cake. He bought time. A favor. A thread that pulled me deeper, one heartbeat at a time. He told me it was just kindness. No strings. No expectations. He lied. Because when a man like that gives you something, he's not giving it. He's choosing you. And when the police knocked on my door 3 weeks later, asking me to spy on him, to wear a wire against the man who had saved my son, I had a choice. But it didn't feel like one. Because I already knew how this story ended. Either with handcuffs, or a heartbeat stopping at the wrong time. But before all that, let me take you back to where it all began. Hi, my amazing friends and family, welcome back to another story for today. If you are ready to enjoy this heartwarming story, smash the subscribe button and comment where you're watching from. I love seeing all your names and places. Also, don't forget to check out more of our interesting videos on the channel. And guess what? Tomorrow, I have got an even more exciting story to share with you that I know you'll love. Now back to the story. The bakery smelled like heaven. Warm sugar, whipped cream, soft vanilla clouds floating through the air. The cake sat behind glass like royalty. Frosted, perfect, glowing under the soft golden lights. But all I could see was the price tag. My fingers tightened around my wallet. My heart had already dropped to the floor. I could hear it thudding in my chest. Louder than the quiet music playing. Louder than my pride dying. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry. I have to cancel the order. The baker's smile faltered. Not out of shock. Out of habit. Like he'd seen this before. Like I was just another mother who couldn't afford her child's birthday. He looked down, not meeting my eyes. That hurt more than anything. I felt small. Like I had shrunk in the warm light of that perfect place. Like I didn't belong in a shop that smelled like dreams. My son Min had asked for a Spider-Man cake. Bright red frosting. Webs made of chocolate. His whole face had lit up when I promised it. But tonight, all I had in my wallet was 14,001. Rent was overdue. Groceries were running low. Electricity was blinking in and out. I had to choose between the cake and keeping our lights on. And I chose the lights. I stepped back quietly, trying not to cry. But shame? It doesn't care about silence. It burns loud. It was clawing up my throat when it happened. The bell above the bakery door rang. Soft, delicate. But the air shifted like a storm had walked in. Footsteps. Heavy. Slow. Sure. And then I felt it. A presence. Not the kind that just fills a room. The kind that owns it. I turned. And there he was. Broad. Hair slicked back like he belonged in a movie. White shirt open at the collar. Black suit tailored like sin. Gold chain catching the light. And tattoos. Curling up his neck and down his hands like smoke. Every person in that bakery went still. Like someone pressed pause. The baker's eyes widened. His hands fumbled. Mr. Kong. Good evening, sir. Sir. He didn't answer right away. He was staring at me. Not like a man noticing a woman. Like a lion noticing something strange in his forest. His eyes were dark, unreadable. But they didn't move. They stayed locked on mine like he was trying to decide something. I stood frozen, fingers still on the edge of the cake display. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. Then he looked at the baker. How much is the cake? His voice was low. Calm. Dangerous. The baker stuttered. 53,001, sir. The man Kong pulled out a thick fold of bills. He didn't count. He didn't blink. He placed the cash on the counter like it meant nothing. like he had 1,000 more just like it waiting in his car. "I'll cover it," he said. Silence. The kind of silence that feels like it's holding its breath. I stepped forward, panic rising. "No, please, I can't let you." He turned back to me. Fully. One eyebrow lifted. His eyes didn't soften. But something else flickered there. Something I didn't understand yet. "You already did," he said. And then he added, just loud enough for me to hear. "No child should go without a birthday cake." The bakery staff bowed slightly. No one dared question him. My throat tightened. I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to say something. Anything. But my mouth refused to move. My brain couldn't catch up. He was already walking past me. He didn't smile. He didn't ask my name. He just paused by the door, looked over his shoulder and said, "Pick it up tomorrow. 10 sharp." Then he disappeared into the night like he was never there. The bell jingled again as the door closed behind him. And all I could do was stand there. Frozen. Confused. Afraid. Grateful. All at once. That night I didn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment in my head. Over and over. His voice. His eyes. His silence. Min was asleep in the next room, curled up with his favorite blanket, dreaming of cake and Spider-Man. He didn't know his mother had broken a promise that morning. Or that a stranger had stepped in and made her keep it. Who was he? Why did he help me? What did he want? I had never seen him before. But the way the baker reacted, the way the air changed when he walked in, told me everything. He wasn't just rich. He wasn't just powerful. He was feared. I googled his name that night. Kongjun. Owner of several high-end restaurants, lounges and clubs. No official criminal record. But under news articles and business profiles, there were whispers. Rumors. The Biko Syndicate. Money laundering. Territory wars. Disappearances. No confirmations. Just shadows. No. I was part of his story. Because tomorrow morning I had to walk back into that bakery. And pick up a cake paid for by the devil in a suit. The next morning came too fast. I dressed carefully. Not fancy. Not sloppy. Just safe. Min held my hand as we walked to the bakery. He was bouncing with excitement, asking if the cake would have candles, if it would sing, if it would shoot webs. My smile stayed frozen on my face. My stomach was in knots. We stepped inside. And there it was. Sitting in the display like a dream. The Spider-Man cake. 6 candles. Red frosting. Webs drawn perfectly in chocolate. And next to it, a real Spider-Man action figure, brand new, still in its box. Min gasped so loud the baker jumped. He pressed his face to the glass. "Is that for me?" The baker gave me a strange look. I nodded slowly. "Yes, baby. It's for you." The baker placed the cake in a box with gentle hands. He handed the toy to Min. Then he looked at me. "There was a note," he said. He slid an envelope across the counter. No name on it. Just a card inside. 4 words. "Dinner. Tonight. 7 p.m. Underneath an address. Nothing else. Min was busy with the toy. Laughing. Happy. I felt my throat close again. This wasn't over. Whatever Kongjun had started in that bakery was just beginning. And I was already too deep to climb out clean. The cake was on the table. Perfect. Untouched. Still smelling like vanilla dreams and expensive kindness. Min had already eaten a slice the size of his head and passed out on the couch with frosting on his nose. The toy, the exact Spider-Man figure he had circled in that old magazine, was still clutched in his tiny hand. He looked peaceful. He didn't know what I was holding. An envelope. Thin. Cream-colored. Clean like it had been written with gloves on. Inside was a single card. Black ink. 4 words. Dinner. No repayment. 7 p.m. And underneath that 2 initials. KJ. My fingers trembled. I set it down on the counter like it might burn me if I held it too long. I couldn't sit still all morning. My body was moving, cleaning, folding, pacing. But my mind, it was screaming. Who sends a birthday cake and a gift without asking? Who learns where you live without your permission? Who signs a note with just 2 letters and expects you to come? The answer whispered itself over and over. Someone powerful. Someone dangerous. Someone who gets what he wants. I stood at the sink, staring at my reflection in the window. The daylight made everything too real. I had no choice, not really. I had to go. Because if I didn't, he might come here again. And I didn't want Min anywhere near that kind of man. So I told myself this was just, thank you. Polite thank you for a cake. Nothing more. By 6 o'clock the sun had dipped low, casting golden shadows across the apartment. I changed 3 times. Too casual. Too fancy. Too boring. I finally settled on a soft blouse and jeans, hair down, lips bare. Not a date. Not a trap. Just a thank you. Right? At exactly 6:55, a black car pulled up to the curb outside. Thick. Polished. Silent. The back window rolled down just enough. The driver inside didn't say anything. He didn't have to. I grabbed my bag, locked the door, and walked toward it with a heart that wasn't beating right. The car smelled like leather and something sharp. Cologne maybe. Or power. I sat in the back, silent, feeling the weight of every breath. The windows were tinted dark. No view. No way to tell where we were going. It took 23 minutes. I counted. When the door opened, I stepped out into another world. A private restaurant. Quiet. Hidden. Tucked between glass buildings and silk curtains. It looked closed. But inside, lights glowed low. Soft music floated like candle smoke through the air. There were no other guests. Just him. Sitting at a table in the center of the room. Black shirt. No tie. Sleeves rolled up just enough to show a little ink. He didn't stand. He just looked at me. And smiled. Not a wide smile. Not a fake one. A knowing one. Like he'd been waiting. Like he knew I'd come. "Miss Kim," he said, motioning to the chair across from him. "You're on time." My throat went dry. I sat down. The table was already set. Plates. Silverware. A glass of wine I hadn't asked for. "I don't drink," I whispered. He tilted his head. "You will tonight." Dinner came without anyone speaking. No waiter. No menu. Just food that appeared like magic. Grilled fish with lemon. Soft rice rolled in seaweed. Miso soup that smelled like comfort. I didn't know where to start. He began eating quietly, like this was normal. Like this wasn't strange at all. I stared at my plate, hands in my lap. Then he asked it. "Do you always look that tired?" I blinked. "What?" He set down his chopsticks. Eyes steady. Calm. Unblinking. "You look like someone who keeps walking through storms." My chest tightened. I hated how that sentence wrapped around me like a coat I didn't know I was wearing. "I'm a mother," I said flatly. He nodded once. "That explains the fire." I didn't know what to say. So I ate. Slowly. He didn't ask about Min. He didn't ask if I liked the toy. He didn't ask if I got the card. He just watched. Watched like he was studying something rare. Finally, I cleared my throat. "Why did you do it?" He didn't pretend not to understand. "The cake." "Yes." He leaned back in his chair. "You looked like you needed one less heartbreak that day." That made something twist deep in my stomach. I opened my mouth. Closed it again. He kept speaking. "I've seen a lot of mothers. Screaming ones. Lying ones. Some that leave. Some that use their kids like shields. But you." He paused. "You canceled a cake. You didn't beg. You didn't cry. You just protected him." I felt my pulse in my ears. He leaned in slightly. That kind of strength is rare. It's not loud, but it's sharp. I pushed my plate away. This wasn't about the cake, was it? He smiled again. "So, no. But it was a good excuse." There was silence for a while. The kind that hums under your skin. Then he asked something I didn't expect. "What do you want, Hannah?" My name in his mouth sounded different. Softer. Almost dangerous. I want my son to be safe. And what about you? I shook my head. I'm used to not having things. He studied me for a long time. Then he said something that made my breath catch. You don't belong in the shadows you live in. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because part of me wanted to believe him. Even though I knew better. Even though my gut screamed run. Dessert arrived without warning. A single slice of strawberry cake. 2 forks. He nodded at it. A little sweetness never hurt anyone. I didn't want to eat it. But I did. Because it was good. Because I was tired. Because he made it hard to say no. When we finished, he stood. Walked around the table. And held out his hand. I froze. He didn't touch me. Just stood there, palm open. I placed my hand in his without knowing why. He walked me to the door like a gentleman. Like a wolf in silk. Outside, the driver was already waiting. He opened the door for me. I turned to June. You could have just let me walk away, I whispered. He smiled one last time. But then I wouldn't see you again. I stepped into the car. And didn't look back. That night, sleep didn't come. I stared at the ceiling, the memory of his voice looping in my head. You don't belong in the shadows you live in. Scared me. Because it felt like he saw something I didn't want to admit. And I didn't know if I hated him for it. Or wanted him to say it again. I didn't hear from him the next day. Or the day after. But I felt him. Like a shadow behind my thoughts. Like perfume that lingered on my skin long after I left the room. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach twisted. Every time someone passed by the bakery window, I looked twice. But nothing came. No notes. No cars. No strange deliveries. Just silence. It should have been a relief. It wasn't. Felt like something had started and paused on purpose. Like he was waiting. Letting the silence grow fat with meaning. Letting me come undone first. By the end of the week, I was back at the cafe. The one near the station. Small. Loud. Always filled with tired feet and burnt coffee. I had worked there on and off for over a year. The pay was terrible. The manager was worse. But it paid for rice and bus rides. Kept the fridge humming. Kept the lights on. And I needed that. More than I needed my pride. More than I needed sleep. That day started like any other. Greasy apron. Worn-out sneakers. Orders shouted in rapid-fire Korean. Until it happened. His hand. Too low on my back. His laugh. Too warm against my neck. His voice. Too close to my ear. You know, Hannah, if you smiled more, I might give you that raise. The plate in my hand didn't break. But something inside me cracked clean. I didn't scream. I didn't slap him. I just walked to the counter. Took off my apron. Placed it down slowly. I quit. His eyes widened. You what? I quit. He laughed like it was a joke. It's not like you got anywhere else to go, sweetheart. I looked at him one last time. My voice was quiet, but it landed like thunder. Maybe I do. And I walked out. Min was asleep when I got home. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. No job. No savings. Rent due in 2 weeks. I had done the right thing. So why did it feel like I had just thrown my life off a cliff? The knock came the next morning. 3 soft taps. Then silence. I opened the door and blinked. It was the driver. The same one from the black car. He didn't smile. Just handed me a folded piece of paper. Another note. You're stronger than I thought. Come see me. 11 a.m. Same place. KJ. No explanation. No apology. No offer. But I already knew what it meant. The restaurant was empty again. Candlelight. Music. That strange velvet hush that followed him wherever he went. He was already seated. This time in a dark gray suit. No tie. No smile. Just watching me walk in like I was a story he hadn't finished reading yet. You're early, he said. I sat down. You're persistent. He didn't deny it. You quit. I had no choice. There's always a choice. Not when someone touches you like that. His jaw twitched, and just for a second the softness cracked. I saw something sharp in his eyes. Something cold. His name. No. He nodded slowly. But I knew he already knew. He didn't ask twice. Instead he slid a folder across the table. Clean. Thick. Labeled with my name. Inside was a contract. 1 page. Short. Simple. Bakery manager. Full-time. Medical. Paid holidays. On-site childcare support. Monthly salary. More than I had ever dreamed of. I blinked. This is a joke. It's real. I looked up at him. Why? He leaned back, calm as ever. I own several bakeries. Some legal. Some more useful. This one is legal? He smiled. Of course. I swallowed hard. I don't want your charity. His answer was instant. Then don't. He stood. Walked toward me. Stopped just close enough that I could smell the citrus and spice on his skin. Earn it. I didn't say yes. But I didn't say no. And 2 days later I found myself standing outside a corner bakery in Gangnam, clutching a set of keys. The sign above the window read, Velvet Crumbs. Elegant. Cozy. Beautiful. Inside the floors were polished wood. The walls were warm cream. The counters sparkled. It looked like something out of a dream. Or a Pinterest board. But I knew better now. Dreams don't come without a price tag. The staff were polite. Too polite. Every word felt measured. Every smile felt rehearsed. The regular customers were strange. Most wore suits. Some had sunglasses indoors. None of them ever ordered anything. They just sat. 4 hours. Sipping black coffee and whispering in low voices. One of them had a scar that ran down his cheek like a red river. Another kept checking his phone like it was wired to his heart. There were cameras in every corner. Security guards who never blinked. And at exactly 4 p.m. each day, a sleek black car would pull up outside. June never entered. But I could feel him watching. He called once a week. Never small talk. Just, how's the staff? Did men like the new books? Have you eaten today? I wanted to hate how those calls made me feel. Safe. Studied. Like I was something valuable in a world full of disposable things. Min loved the new place. He had a quiet corner with crayons and puzzles. He got to eat cake scraps after closing. The staff doted on him like he was royalty. He didn't understand the tension that hummed beneath the smiles. He didn't see the way everyone stiffened when the black car appeared. But I saw it. And I felt it. Every day. One evening as I was locking up, I heard a voice behind me. You left the side light on. I turned. He was there. Leaning against the door frame, hands in his pockets. He looked tired. But beautiful. Like someone carved from ink and smoke. I thought you only watched from a distance, I said. He smiled faintly. Even shadows need a break. He stepped inside. Looked around. It suits you, he said. This place. No. This life. I laughed softly. It's not mine. It's borrowed. He stepped closer. It's earned. That word again. Earned. Like he was trying to give me something without making me feel owned. Like he knew how delicate that balance had to be. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, hearing his voice in my head. It suits you. Turned. You're stronger than I thought. And for the first time in years, I wasn't sure where my life ended and his began. Because every dollar I made now had his fingerprint on it. Every breath of safety I took was wrapped in the warmth of his power. And every morning I opened that bakery door. I walked deeper into a world I didn't understand. But somehow, I didn't want to leave. Not yet. The next morning I opened the bakery door like I always did. But the air felt different. Still sweet, still warm. But heavier. Like the walls had heard something they weren't supposed to. Like the floorboards were holding secrets under every step. The ovens hummed softly. The smell of fresh dough curled in the air. But underneath that was something colder. I couldn't name it, but I could feel it. It started small. A whisper in the hallway. Cut off too fast. An order slip that didn't match the usual menu. A delivery van arriving at midnight, headlights off, engines still running. And always the same four men. Sunglasses. Suits. Never smiling. They came in. Sat at the corner table. Ordered nothing. Then left. No one asked questions. No one looked them in the eye. Not even me. But I noticed. And noticing is dangerous. Later that week I stayed late to check inventory. The staff had gone home. Min was with a neighbor. It was past 9. The windows reflected the lights inside like mirrors. That's when I saw him. A figure across the street. So, watching. I stepped outside. The air was cold. Dry. The street empty except for one man. He walked slowly toward me. Dark coat. Clean shoes. Tired eyes. But sharp. So sharp they seemed to cut through the night. He stopped a few feet away. Miss Kim. His voice was formal. Oh. I nodded, heart thudding. I'm Detective CO. He held up a badge just for a second. Then tucked it away. I need a moment. I crossed my arms. If this is about the bakery, it's about the man who owns it. That stopped me. He took a slow breath like he was choosing his words carefully. You're standing too close to fire. I said nothing. You may think he's charming, generous, even kind. But people like Kong Jun don't do anything without a reason. I frowned. You don't know him. I know what's buried under the buildings he owns. I know what disappears through the back doors of this place every week. And I know what happens to people who get too close. His words were meant to scare me. They did. But not in the way he expected. I looked him dead in the eyes. He gave my son a cake when no one else cared. He gave me a job when I had nothing. If that's fire, maybe I'd rather burn. He stared at me for a long moment. Then nodded once, cold and slow. Just remember I tried. And with that he walked away into the dark. That night I couldn't focus. Every sound felt louder. Every shadow looked longer. I cleaned the counter twice. Rearranged the forks. Checked the locks. And still I jumped when the door opened. It was him. Kongjun. No warning. No driver. No suit. Just black jeans, a fitted jacket, and that same silent storm behind his eyes. You're still here, he said. I couldn't sleep. He stepped inside. Closed the door behind him. He didn't smile. But his voice was softer than usual. Neither could I. He walked past the glass display, glancing at the cakes like they were strangers. Then sat at one of the tables. I followed, hands shaking just slightly. He leaned back in the chair. You met someone tonight. It wasn't a question. I nodded once. Detective CO. Still no smile. He looked away for a moment, eyes on the floor. He's not wrong, you know. That made me freeze. You're admitting it? He looked up. There are things about me you don't want to know, Hannah. I think I already do. No, he said quietly. You only see the parts one let you. Silence. Then I asked the one question that had been crawling through my chest for weeks. Why me? He looked at me like he'd been waiting for that. And when he spoke it was slow. Careful. My mother raised me alone. In a one-room apartment above a junkyard. I used to sell lighters on the street corner while she cleaned offices at night. She died when I was 16. Liver failure. He paused. I remember her hands. Always shaking. Always cold. But she never stopped smiling. Even when we had nothing. I didn't breathe. You remind me of her, he said. But you're not like her. You're harder. Angrier. Louder inside even when you're quiet. He leaned forward slightly. And I don't want to break that. The silence was thick. Heavy. But soft. Like a blanket made of secrets. He stood slowly. Walked around the table. Stopped right in front of me. I looked up. And something shifted. The air between us turned electric. His hand lifted, not touching but close. Fingers just inches from my cheek. His voice dropped to a whisper. You should stay away from me. But you keep coming closer. He didn't move. Neither did I. And just as something between us started to pull tight, like a thread about to snap, his phone rang. He stared at it for a moment, then sighed. Backed away. His words were short. Business. And when he hung up, he didn't meet my eyes again. I have to go. I stood too. Was it something bad? He nodded once. Always. He turned toward the door, then paused. You should lock up. And sleep. I didn't say anything. He opened the door, then hesitated again. Without looking back, he said it. If you want peace, stay away from me. Then he was gone. I stood there for a long time. Alone in a bakery full of sugar and silence. His voice echoed in my ears. Stay away from me. But I knew. Even if I wanted to. I couldn't. The bakery was warm. The ovens were humming. The staff were laughing. And the sun outside spilled gold through the windows like everything was finally okay. It wasn't. Min was supposed to be home. School had ended over an hour ago. The classroom should have emptied by now. The teacher should have walked him to the gate. The bus should have dropped him 2 blocks from the bakery like always. But he wasn't there. I checked my phone again. No messages. No missed calls. I called the driver. No answer. I called the school. The secretary said he left on time. I called the neighbor who usually met him. She hadn't seen him. The air around me tightened. My ears rang. I grabbed my coat, dropped the apron on the floor and ran. The world outside blurred. Shops. Sidewalks. Faces. All spinning. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. My heart was slamming against my ribs, screaming his name in every beat. Min, Min, Min. I searched the school gate. The street. The bus stop. Gone. I pulled out my phone again with shaking fingers. Was I overreacting? Was I being dramatic? Or was this every mother's worst nightmare crashing into my chest? And then my phone buzzed. A single vibration. A single name. Kongjun. I answered without thinking. Where is he? I cried. Silence. Then his voice, calm but sharper than ever. He's safe. I collapsed against the wall behind me, knees buckling. What happened? I whispered. His next words were ice and fire wrapped in velvet. They tried to take him. The world stopped. My breath caught in my throat. Who? His voice was lower now. Controlled. People who want my attention. People who thought hurting me meant touching you. I couldn't move. They took Min. I whispered. No, he said quickly. They tried. My men were there. Soge. Scared but untouched. Tears slipped down my cheeks before I could stop them. Where is he now? On his way to you. I was still standing there when the black car pulled up. The door opened. And Min ran into my arms. I dropped to the ground, hugging him so tightly I could feel his heartbeat against mine. He was crying. I was crying. But he was warm. Breathing. Alive. I kissed his forehead over and over, whispering apologies, promises, prayers. He clung to me like I was the only safe place left on earth. And in that moment, maybe I was. When I looked up, June was standing nearby, leaning against the car, watching. But his usual cold calm was cracked. His jaw was tight. His hands were fists. And when our eyes met, something passed between us. Not words. Not questions. Not explanations. Just weight. The weight of what could have happened. The weight of what almost did. Later, after Min was sleeping safe at home, June came back. No guards. No driver. Just him. I let him in. He didn't speak at first. Neither did I. We sat in the kitchen. No candles. No wine. Just the dim light over the sink and the sound of our breathing. I should have known, he said finally. They were getting bold. I looked at him. So they tried to steal my son, because of you? He nodded slowly. Yes. I didn't scream. I didn't hit him. I didn't fall apart. I just stared. You promised me he was safe. And he is. Because of me. His voice was soft. Almost sad. You're safe because of me now. That's not something you can undo. The words sank into me like ink in water. Because I knew they were true. Every piece of my safety, every inch of peace, came from him. And that meant it could be taken. Ripped away if he ever stopped watching. Or if he ever walked away. I stood and walked to the sink, needing space, air, something. I gripped the counter and stared at my own reflection in the window. Tired eyes. Shaky hands. A mother too close to a man who wore fire-like clothing. I didn't want this, I whispered. I know. I turned to face him. Then why me? He stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough for his voice to wrap around me again. Because you remind me what it feels like to protect something that matters. The air between us changed. It thickened. Like a thread was pulling tight between us again. I could smell the rain on his jacket. I could hear the quiet storm in his breath. And I could feel it. The way the world tilted slightly when he stepped closer. You saved him, I whispered. He nodded. I'll always save him. Our eyes met. There were so many things I could have said. Thank you. Don't touch me. Don't stop. But I said nothing. And neither did he. We just stood there inches apart. His hands in his pockets. Mine gripping the counter. The room felt too small. The silence too loud. And the space between us. Too full of something I couldn't name. Not yet. Thought he would move. Thought I would. But we didn't. We just stood in that kitchen like two magnets trying not to connect. Breathing the same air. Burning the same secret. Wanting the same impossible thing. The space between us didn't move. But everything inside it shifted. I could feel his breath. Slow. Heavy. Like he was holding back a war behind his ribs. My fingers stayed curled around the counter. His hands didn't reach for me. But his eyes did. Every inch of his gaze was pulling something out of me I didn't want to give. And couldn't keep. He looked at me like he knew how close I was to falling. Like he'd seen it before. Like he'd been the cause before. I closed my eyes. And then I felt it. His fingertips brushing mine. Barely. A whisper of skin. A question. I opened my eyes and looked up. We didn't speak. We didn't have to. My hand turned in his, slow like melting sugar. And in the silence we moved closer. His nose grazed mine. His forehead touched mine. And then, it happened. The first kiss. Slow. Soft. Almost afraid to exist. Like if we kissed too hard the world would snap in two. His lips tasted like rain. Like secrets. Like danger wrapped in velvet. My heart didn't beat. It ached. He kissed me like I was something breakable. And for once I let myself be. I don't know how long we stood there. Minutes? Hours? All I knew was the warmth in my chest and the weight of his breath on my skin. When he finally pulled back he said nothing. He just pressed his forehead against mine. And whispered so quietly I almost missed it. You don't know what you're doing to me. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid. But because I didn't want the feeling to leave my skin. I curled beside Min, listening to his tiny breaths. Wondering how something so wrong could feel this pure. But when the morning came the real world came with it. And it didn't knock. Kicked the door down. I was walking home from the market when he appeared again. Detective Seo. Same coat. Same eyes. Same warning behind his voice. He blocked my path with his body. Come. Pulled. Miss Kim. I said nothing. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small folder. Thin. But heavy. Do you love your son? My stomach twisted. I asked you a question. I do. Then listen to me. He handed me the folder. Photos. Papers. Account numbers. Bank statements. Shipping manifests. One name repeated on every line. Kongjun. My fingers shook as I flipped through the evidence. Money transferred through fake restaurants. Offshore accounts under dead names. Deliveries labeled as baked goods that never went through customs. My throat closed. This is all real? He nodded. He's not just the man who bought you a cake, Ms. Kim. He's the man who decides which bodies stay buried and which ones float. I closed the folder. He saved my son. And maybe he put him in danger in the first place. I looked away. I can't. Sio's eyes narrowed. We're offering you immunity. Full protection. You give us names, dates, what you've seen. We take him down. You disappear with your son. New life. Clean. My voice came out like broken glass. I said I can't. He stepped closer. You think this is love? I think this is my choice. He didn't fight me. He just stared for a long time. Then said the same thing he always did. Just remember. I tried. I didn't tell anyone. Not the staff. Not my neighbor. Not even myself. But I couldn't forget. Those pages. That evidence. That question. What if everything he gave me was built on blood? What if the safety I felt was an illusion he crafted with silk gloves? That night I stayed at the bakery late. I thought maybe baking would calm my thoughts. It didn't. I was icing cupcakes when I heard the door unlock. Only one person had that key. I didn't turn around. Rough day? He asked softly. Busy. He stepped behind me. I felt his warmth before I heard his breath. You're quiet. So are you. His hand touched the counter beside mine. I finally looked up. And he saw it in my face. The shift. The weight. The doubt. What happened? He asked. I didn't answer. His eyes searched mine like he was flipping through pages only he could read. Did someone speak to you? Silence. Detective Sio? I nodded once. His jaw tightened. He took a slow breath and looked away like he was counting to 10. Then back at me. Did he show you something? Photos. Papers. Names. His voice dropped. What did you do? I walked away. He studied me. Really studied me. Like he didn't know if he believed me. Or maybe he did. And it scared him. He reached into his coat. Pulled out a phone. Set it face down on the counter. Then stepped closer. I need you to listen to me very carefully, Hannah. His voice was deeper now. Calmer. But colder. You can't trust anyone. Not the police. Not the neighbors. Not even the walls. I swallowed. Why? Because the moment they smell fear, they'll use you. I didn't speak. I just stared at him. And he said the one thing that shattered the silence into pieces. If they come for you, tell them nothing. His eyes burned into mine. You belong to me now. I should have run. I should have screamed. But I just stood there. Because deep down, a part of me already knew it was true. It was supposed to be a normal night. Soft jazz in the speakers. Pastries lined in perfect rows. Candles flickering in corners. I wore my favorite apron. Min had colored a new drawing for the wall. The staff smiled like nothing in the world could shatter. But something in the air felt wrong. Too still. Too quiet. Like the moment just before glass breaks. At 7:14 p.m. the front door slammed open. Boots thundered inside. Gloved hands raised. Voices shouted words I couldn't process fast enough. Police. Hands where we can see them. Plates crashed. Chairs toppled. One of the servers screamed. I turned around and froze. Guns. Badges. Black uniforms. They swarmed in like smoke. No warning. No mercy. Someone grabbed my wrist. Someone else took my phone. Min wasn't there. Thank God. But I was. And I couldn't breathe. They pulled me into a back room. Concrete walls. One chair. One flickering light. I sat there shaking. The air stank of sweat and coffee. A man entered. Not Detective Sio. Someone else. He slammed a folder on the table. Your name is Hannah Kim. Yes. You manage this bakery. Yes. Do you know what's been happening in the back kitchen after hours? I shook my head. I swear I don't. He leaned closer. You're sleeping with Kong Jun. I looked up, mouth dry. That's not. Don't lie. I didn't know anything, I said, voice cracking. I bake. I clean. I serve tea. That's it. He stared at me. Too hard. Too long. Then he stood and left. 5 minutes later, the door opened again. You're free to go. Just like that. No more questions. No charges. No threats. They handed me my bag and told me to walk. I stepped out into the night, still shaking. The street was empty. No police. No sirens. Like it had all been a dream. But when I looked down at my phone, I found a message. Just one word. Come. His restaurant was untouched. Not a single light broken. Not a single window cracked. He was waiting upstairs. In the private suite. White shirt. Sleeves rolled. Come. Like he just stepped out of a shower instead of a battlefield. I slammed the door shut behind me. You used me. He didn't flinch. I protected you. No, I snapped. You planted fake books. You hid things under my nose. You made me look clean so they'd stop digging. You made me the shield. His voice was steady. And you're alive, aren't you? I stepped closer. They could have taken me. Locked me up. Min could have lost me. But he didn't, June said quietly. Because I planned it down to the breath. I stared at him, eyes burning. You used me as bait. He stepped forward. I used myself to save you. I hit his chest. Once. Then again. You lied. I had no choice. I trusted you. His hands caught mine. You still do. No, I whispered, voice breaking. I don't know what I feel anymore. He looked at me like I was the only thing in the world that made sense. Then he said the one thing that ruined me. I would die before I let anything touch you. The walls inside me cracked. Every question. Every doubt. Every ache. I reached for him before I knew what I was doing. And he was already there. His lips crashed against mine. No more softness, no more silence. Only heat. Only hunger. Only truth. My hands tangled in his hair. His arms wrapped around my waist. We didn't make love like people in romance movies. We made love like two storms colliding. Like everything we'd buried was exploding all at once. Clothes hit the floor. Breath hitched. Skin met skin. Every kiss was a confession. Every touch a surrender. It wasn't sweet. It was desperate. Wild. Beautiful. After the room was quiet. Sweat on our skin. The scent of rosewood and fire in the air. I lay against his chest, breath still uneven. He stroked my hair with slow fingers. No words. Just heartbeat against heartbeat. Finally he whispered. Oh, soft. A sentence that wrapped around my throat like silk. Now you're truly mine. I closed my eyes. And said nothing. But as part of me knew. It wasn't a promise. It was a curse. The next morning felt stolen. Not borrowed. Stolen. The sunlight through the curtains felt softer than it should have. His chest beneath my cheek rose and fell like waves in slow motion. And for a moment I believed this could last. But lies always feel like silk at first. His phone buzzed. Then again. He didn't move. But I felt the shift in his body. Like ice cracking under heat. I looked up. His eyes were already open. Distant. Heavy. He reached for the phone. Read something. Didn't speak. Bad news? I asked. He gave a small nod. Then sat up like something inside him had snapped awake. Stay here, he said gently. I'll make you tea. But when he stood I saw it. The weight in his shoulders. The war behind his back. And in that moment I knew. The storm wasn't coming. It had already started. By noon the bakery was quiet. Min was coloring in the corner. The ovens were off. And I was pretending nothing was different. But the streets outside said otherwise. More black cars than usual. Less laughter. Less light. I caught two of the security men whispering behind the cooler. One name repeated. June. Another name I didn't know. But the look in their eyes chilled me more than the cold floor. I called June. No answer. Then again. Still nothing. I didn't panic. Not yet. But my heart, it started counting. He came in just after sunset. No suit. No coat. Just a hoodie. Dark jeans. Scratches on his hand. And eyes that looked like they hadn't blinked in hours. I rushed to him. Where have you been? He kissed my forehead. And whispered, we need to talk. He didn't take me upstairs. He took me into the back kitchen. Lights off. Just moonlight on the tile. Then he spoke. The other families are turning. My chest tightened. They're scared, he said. Of prison. Of betrayal. Of weakness. He looked at me jaw locked. And I made them feel all of it. I held his hand. What are you saying? They want me gone. I shook my head. No. He nodded. Yes. 10 minutes later, someone knocked on the back door. It was Detective Seo. Alone. No badge showing. No weapon out. Just weariness. And quiet fire in his voice. This is bigger than we thought, he said. Your name is all over the files now. His enemies think you're leverage. His allies think you're the crack in the wall. I stayed silent. He looked at June. You should have burned the whole kingdom down the moment you let her in. June didn't blink. Maybe I wanted someone to remember the way it felt before I did. Seo sighed. Turn yourself in. I'll keep her safe. I stepped forward. No. But June raised a hand. I'll do it, he said softly. But not yet. We left that night. A quiet car. A longer road. Min curled up in the back seat, unaware the world was closing in around us. He brought us to a house near the sea. No neighbors. No lights. Just crashing waves and a stocked fridge. It was too clean. Too final. He walked me to the door. I turned to him. Don't go. He cupped my face. If I don't do this, they'll never stop chasing you. I don't care. I do. Tears slipped down my cheeks. He wiped them gently with his thumb. If I don't make it, he whispered, voice shaking for the first time, remember me by the way I looked at you now. I kissed him. Not like the first time. Not soft. But with every ounce of love, of fear, of goodbye I didn't want to say. And then he left. Without another word. The sound of the car disappearing into the night was the loudest silence I'd ever heard. That night I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor by the window, knees to my chest. Min snored softly in the bedroom. The ocean crashed outside. And inside me everything broke. I waited. For a message. A knock. A miracle. But at 3:27 a.m. the phone rang. I answered. Hello. Pause. Then. Multiple casualties. My heart stopped. Where? The docks. A shootout. We found his car. I stood numb. Was he? We don't know yet. The line went dead. I dropped the phone. And fell to my knees. As I did know. I knew. And I couldn't breathe. It was always quiet here. The sea whispered instead of shouted. The sky turned gold at 6 every evening. The townspeople smiled but never asked too many questions. And that was exactly why she stayed. Hannah stood behind the counter of her cafe, wiping the same spot on the glass display for the third time. She wasn't really cleaning. She was thinking. Like she did every morning. The scent of brewed coffee wrapped around her. The wind carried salt through the cracked window. And from the back room the soft sound of crayons dragging across paper. Min was drawing again. A superhero. A cake. A man with a scar on his cheek. He didn't ask about the past anymore. But sometimes she saw the way he looked out at the sea. Like he remembered. Like he was still waiting. The sign outside the cafe read Little Crumbs. Simple. Small. But every inch of it was hers. The curtains. The spoons. The lemon cakes in the display. Even the floorboards had stories now. Ones that didn't include blood or betrayal. Just footsteps. And safety. 3 months. That's how long it had been since the phone call. Since the shootout. Since the silence. They told her the bodies had been burned beyond recognition. That the name Kong Jun had disappeared with the fire. That she was free. But she never believed it. Because she had seen the way he looked at her before he left. Not like a man walking into death. But like someone rewriting his ending. She wore his ring on a chain. Close to her heart. Every day. Sometimes she took it off and stared at it for hours. Other days she kissed it once before opening the cafe doors. But she never stopped wearing it. And she never stopped waiting. That evening it rained. Not gently. But heavy. The kind of rain that makes the world blur behind glass. Hannah lit the candles in the cafe one by one. Min was asleep in the back, his head on a picture book. The radio hummed softly in the corner. Everything felt still. Like the air was holding its breath. Then the doorbell rang. She froze. It wasn't a loud sound. Just the soft chime of the brass bell above the door. But it pierced through the silence like lightning. She turned slowly. And saw him. He wasn't the same. His hair was shorter. His skin darker from the sun. He had a scar along his jaw that hadn't been there before. But his eyes, those eyes, they hadn't changed at all. He stood there in a plain coat. Soaked from the rain. Not smiling. Not crying. Just standing. Breathing. Alive. She didn't speak. Neither did he. Not at first. He took one step in. Then another. And then, that smile. The one he only showed when no one else was watching. Soft. Broken. Beautiful. Hannah's voice cracked. You kept your promise. He nodded. And stepped closer. I told you, he said. If I lived I'd find you. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear. But from everything she had buried rising at once. She reached for him. He took her hand. Held it like it was the only thing keeping him upright. She touched his face. Traced the scar with her thumb. He leaned into her palm like he had come home. Behind them the candles flickered in the window. Rain slid down the glass in quiet rivers. And somewhere in the silence Min stirred from sleep. He would see his mother crying soon. But not from pain. From something softer. From something sacred. June didn't ask if she still loved him. He didn't need to. And Hannah didn't ask what it had cost him to survive. She saw it in his eyes. All she said was, "Come inside. You're cold." And all he whispered back was, "Only until you touched me." Later that night they sat in the cafe with 2 cups of tea between them. Min leaned against his mother's side, yawning. June didn't stop looking at them. Like they were a painting he never thought he'd see again. And on the counter, a small cake sat behind the glass. Vanilla sponge. Strawberry cream. Ice letters in red. Happy birthday, Min. Just like the one that started it all. Outside the rain kept falling. Inside, there was only warmth. Only breath. Only love that had fought through fire and found its way home. Thank you so much for staying with me until the very end of this story. If you enjoyed this story, I promise you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more thrilling as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.